Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping sat down for virtual talks today. The Russian leader said that he expects to hold a face-to-face meeting with Xi Jinping during the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympics in February 2022. Hailing ties between the two sides, the Russian president said that Moscow-Beijing ties are a real example of how relations between states should develop in the 21st century. Amid a growing call by the West and its allies to boycott the Beijing Olympics, Vladimir Putin said that he stands firmly against the politicization of the Games and that he hopes the Beijing Games will be held at a high level.
Уважаемый друг, уважаемый председатель Си Цзиньпинь, рассчитываю, что в феврале следующего года...
Dear friend, dear President Xi Jinping, next February I expect we can finally meet in person in Beijing as we have agreed. We will hold talks and then participate in the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympic Games. I'm grateful for your invitation to attend this landmark event. This year in our relations has been marked by the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Good Neighbourliness and Friendly Cooperation. It is being prolonged for another 5 years. The consistent implementation of this fundamental document, which reflects deep historical traditions of friendship and mutual understanding between the Russian and Chinese people, allowed to take our relations to the next breakthrough level.
The two leaders also spoke about how trade ties between the two countries have expanded. Russia-China trade turnover increased by 31% in 11 months of 2021, exceeding the pre-pandemic trade levels. Moscow's knock at China's doors coming at a time when the US has put its head together with its NATO allies to plan what it calls alternatives over the Russia-Ukraine crisis. The Kremlin had earlier confirmed that the Ukraine border crisis will be dominating the talks between the two leaders. The US and NATO's collective rhetoric is also among the key points of discussions. Just over the weekend, US, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the UK issued a statement condemning Russia's troop build-up at the Ukrainian border. As Putin met Xi Jinping, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen warned of unprecedented measures against Russia in case of escalation at the Ukrainian borders. Von der Leyen added that though the EU seeks to have good ties with Russia, it depends largely on Moscow's actions.
There's a whole set of economic sanctions in place, targeting the financial and energy sector, dual-use goods and defence. Our response to any further aggression may take the form of a robust scaling up and expansion of these existing sanctions. And of course we are ready to take additional, unprecedented measures with serious consequences for Russia. But above all, I call on Russia to de-escalate, to pursue diplomatic channels, and to abide by its international commitments. Conflicts must be solved peacefully.
China and Russia share a long border, but the two countries have kept their focus on trade and energy. Just this year, China faced a significant coal shortage and Russia offered to help its neighbor. Now, when it comes to China, the country's stance on the Ukraine border crisis is not clear. At no point has Beijing talked in favor or against the troop buildup. And for more on these developments, our correspondent Patrick Falk sent us this report from Beijing. Take a look.
Well, this is a significant meeting for a number of different reasons, not least because of the symbolic nature of it. The timing, of course, is absolutely critical. It's coming right after the US-led Democracy Summit, which China and Russia were not part of course. It's also coming on the back of the Group of Seven condemning Russia over its military build-up at the border with Ukraine, and also the G7 hitting out at China, what it deems coercive economic and trade practices. So this meeting really will signal that this Western diplomatic pressure is pushing Russia and China closer together. Notably, Chinese media accused the US and the West of trying to drive a wedge between Beijing and Moscow. And it is true to say that by and large, China and Russia's interests are aligned with one another, but there are areas where they diverge as well. On the issue of Afghanistan, for instance, they both have an interest in security cooperation and in the redevelopment of the country, but at the same time, Russia is wary of acknowledging the Taliban leadership. And also on the issue of India, in contrast with China, Russia has been developing closer security ties with India. So those are key areas of difference between the two sides.
And to better understand Russia's takeaways from that meeting, Julia Chapman sent us this report from Moscow.
Russia hasn't acknowledged the numbers that Kiev has accused it of building up on the borders. It's only referred to a few military drills that it has been carrying out in southern Russia, but nothing like the numbers that we've been hearing from Western countries and from Ukraine, with the US saying there could be as many as 175,000 Russian troops in place on the Ukrainian border by January. Kiev says there's already about 95,000 Russian troops in the area. And all of this has, of course, been leading to growing concern among European countries and other NATO partners over the past month, with Russia, of course, denying that it has any ill intent towards Ukraine, but it has also been accusing Ukraine of stoking tensions and of carrying out a buildup of its own along the conflict line in the Donbass, that region of eastern Ukraine where Russian-backed rebels are fighting the Ukrainian military. Of course, that's been going on since 2014 and has led to around 13,000 deaths in that time, according to Kiev. But the tensions have been rising in recent weeks, and that has been causing great concern on both sides of the border. Of course, here in Russia, there are concerns that NATO is building up closer to its borders. It's been warning about expanding NATO to include Ukraine, something that Moscow would find very unsettling, and has been seeking guarantees from the bloc to say that it will not expand to include Ukraine, something that NATO is simply not prepared to guarantee.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.